The trial took place on Earth, in a specially built courtroom that could accommodate representatives from every freed species. Moon Dae-sung, Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood before the assembly. Behind him, the 5 former council leaders sat in transparent cells, their gray skin pale with defeat. "We gather not for vengeance," Dae-sung began, "but for justice, something the galaxy hasn't seen in 10,000 years. Ko Chang-min, humanity's chief historian, had spent months preparing the evidence. The courtroom's holographic displays showed civilization after civilization that the council had destroyed. Each species got their day to speak, to share their losses, to demand answers. The Teloni representative, finally free to speak without fear, told of how the council had killed 90% of their population for developing quantum communication. The Melody survivors shared how their entire homeworld was turned to ash because they questioned council trade agreements. Story after story, horror after horror. But what shocked the galaxy most was humanity's response. "You expect us to execute them," the lead council member said when it was time for sentencing. "That's what we would do." Shin Ye-eun, newly elected leader of the Multi-Species Alliance, stood up. "That's exactly why we won't. Death would be mercy. You'll live. You'll work to rebuild what you destroyed. Every day for the rest of your lives, you'll face what you've done." The sentence was life imprisonment with labor. The former council leaders would help rebuild the worlds they had damaged under constant guard. Their knowledge used to undo their own destruction. Admiral Lee Dong-wook oversaw the dismantling of council military technology. But instead of destroying it, humanity did something unexpected. "Every species gets equal access," he announced. "The technology that was used to oppress will now protect everyone equally." Captain Park Jae-won led the diplomatic mission to establish the new galactic government. Unlike the council's rigid hierarchy, this alliance was built on equal representation. Every species, no matter how small, got a voice. The council ruled through fear, Jae-won explained during the first assembly. "We'll govern through consensus. It will be messier, louder, and sometimes frustrating, but it will be fair." Dr. Kim Hae-jin established the Galactic Truth Commission. Its mission was simple: uncover every lie the council had told, every history they had erased, every culture they had destroyed. "Knowledge is power," she said. The council knew this, so they hoarded it. "We're doing the opposite. Everything will be public. Every species will know their true history." The transformation wasn't easy. Some species, having lived under council rule for generations, didn't know how to be free. Others wanted revenge, not justice. But humanity's approach slowly won them over. Lim Jun-young, now coordinator of interspecies relations, worked tirelessly to build trust. "We were deceived too," he reminded angry delegates. "We understand the rage, but we also know that rage alone builds nothing. We need to be better than them." Captain An Kyung-soo transformed humanity's war fleet into a peacekeeping force. Ships that had brought destruction now brought aid to worlds damaged by council exploitation. The UES Vengeance was renamed UES Liberation. Its weapons turned to clearing debris and asteroid mining to help rebuild shattered economies. On Mars, Bai Ji-woo opened the ancient warnings to all species. The Martian's final message became a memorial to all the civilizations the council had destroyed. "Never forget." The translation read, "Power without conscience is the path to extinction." Dr. Kang Soo-jin's research into human rage took a new direction. She began studying how different species processed trauma and recovery. Her work helped countless beings deal with generations of oppression. "Humans are unique," she published in her groundbreaking paper, "not because we can weaponize our emotions, but because we can choose when to stop. We can transform rage into justice, hatred into determination, revenge into rebuilding." The galaxy watched in amazement as humanity kept its promises. When rogue council loyalists tried to release a bioweapon on a human colony, humans captured them alive and put them on trial, instead of executing them on the spot. When hidden council wealth was discovered, humans distributed it equally among victim species rather than claiming it as spoils of war. "Why?" a Vakari elder asked Dae-sung. "You could rule as the council did. You have the strength." "Because we've seen where that leads," Dae-sung replied. "We've been conquerors in our own history. We've been the oppressed too. We know both sides, and we choose neither. We choose justice." The new capital of the Multi-Species Alliance was built in the asteroid belt where humanity had constructed their secret fleet. What had been a hidden shipyard became a symbol of transformation. Factories that built weapons now constructed homes for refugees. Military planners became urban designers. Song Min-ho led the technology sharing initiative. Every advancement humans had made was freely given to Alliance members. The rapid innovation that had saved humanity now lifted entire civilizations. The Council kept species dependent, he explained. We're doing the opposite. Every world should be able to defend itself, feed itself, govern itself. But perhaps the most profound change came from Oh Hyun-woo's transformation. The commando who had led brutal boarding actions now trained peacekeepers in de-escalation tactics. I learned to channel rage into action, he taught his students. Now I teach how to channel strength into protection. Any fool can destroy. It takes real power to protect. A year after the Council's fall, Chang-min published the definitive history of the war. But he didn't glorify humanity's victory. Instead, he focused on the lessons learned. We discovered that humanity's greatest strength wasn't our rage, he wrote. It was our ability to stop, to choose justice over vengeance, to build rather than just tear down. We offered trust and were betrayed. We answered with controlled fury, and then when we won, we chose mercy. That is what makes us human. The Taloni, first to join humanity's rebellion, became their strongest allies. The Melody, nearly extinct, rebuilt their population with human medical assistance. Species after species found their place in the new order. There were challenges. Former Council worlds struggled with democracy. Some species wanted isolation rather than alliance. Pirates and warlords tried to fill the power vacuum. But the alliance held, grown stronger through adversity. Jung Eun-ji, the diplomat who had delivered humanity's declaration of war, now served as the alliance's roving ambassador. She visited world after world, solving disputes, building connections. The Council connected worlds through fear, she said in a speech on the 5th anniversary of liberation. We connect them through hope. The former Council leaders working under guard on restoration projects slowly began to understand what they had lost. One near the end of their life asked to speak with Ye-Yun. We thought we were preserving order, the alien said. We never understood that growth requires freedom. Change requires risk. You humans knew this because you lived it. Yes, Ye-Yun replied. And that's why the galaxy is free now. As the years passed, humanity's role evolved. No longer warriors, they became mediators. No longer revolutionaries, they became builders. The same passion that had fueled their rage now drove their compassion. New species were discovered, approaching spaceflight. Unlike the Council, the Alliance greeted them openly, offering friendship without conditions, protection without subjugation. Remember became humanity's unofficial motto, carved on monuments across the galaxy. Remember what happens when power forgets justice. Remember what happens when the deceived unite. Remember that mercy is not weakness and rage is not strength. Remember that we are all equal beneath the stars. The galaxy had learned its most important lesson from humanity. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't in the conquest, but in what you choose to do with the power once you've won. And in the night sky above Earth, where once Council ships had lurked with hidden menace, now flew the banners of 100 free worlds, proof that humanity's rage, once unleashed, had transformed into something far more powerful, hope for a better tomorrow. Eun-ji stood in the Grand Council chamber, surrounded by representatives from 50 species. The massive hall was designed to intimidate, with the Council's 5 leaders sitting high above everyone else. They looked down at her with their black eyes, expecting another routine report from humanity's diplomat. They were about to get something very different. Honored Council, Eun-ji began, her voice carrying across the chamber. Humanity has a message for you. She pressed a button on her datapad. Every screen in the chamber lit up with the evidence, the genocide records, the extermination videos, the Council's own words planning humanity's death. You taught us deception, she said as chaos erupted around her. We perfected it. At that exact moment, across Council space, humanity struck. Captain An Kyung-soo led the first wave from the bridge of the UES Vengeance. All ships execute Operation Unleashed. Show them what human rage looks like. 5,000 human vessels appeared from hyperspace simultaneously, catching Council fleets completely off guard. The aliens had expected maybe 50 poorly armed ships. Instead, they faced a swarm of vessels built with one purpose: destruction. The battle over Kepler 442 showed the Council's fatal error. Their fleet commander watched in confusion as human ships ignored standard battle formations. Instead of organizing in neat lines, they attacked like angry wasps from every direction at once. Impossible, the commander said. No species fights with such chaos. But it wasn't chaos. Every human ship knew exactly where its allies were. Communicated through quantum-linked networks the Council didn't know existed. What looked like disorder was actually a perfectly coordinated storm. Commander Oh Hyunwoo led the boarding teams. While the space battles raged, his commandos used stealth shuttles to reach Council command ships. The first boarding action shocked everyone. Council soldiers were 2 meters tall and physically superior to humans in every way. It didn't matter. Hyunwoo's team moved through the ship's corridors like demons, using tactics the Council had never seen. Flash grenades designed to overload their sensitive eyes, magnetic mines that turned the ship's own hull into shrapnel, close-quarters combat that was brutal, efficient and utterly without mercy. Command deck secured, Hyunwoo reported after 20 minutes. Beginning data extraction. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human hackers, using backdoors they'd discovered in Council technology, turned the aliens' own systems against them. Defense platforms fired on Council ships. Communications networks broadcast humanity's evidence of Council crimes to every inhabited world. Dr. Kang Soo-jin watched from Earth's command center as her theories proved correct. Human crews performed at levels that shouldn't have been possible. Their shared rage didn't make them reckless. It made them focused, synchronized, unstoppable. Look at the neural link data, she told Admiral Dong-wook. Our crews are thinking faster than the Council can react. They're predicting enemy movements based on pure instinct. The Council's bioweapon deployment ships never reached Earth. Humanity had prepared a special welcome for them. Captain Han Sung-ho's stealth fleet had waited at Neptune for weeks, invisible and patient. When the plague ships arrived, they found themselves in a carefully prepared kill zone. Fire everything, Sung-ho ordered. The bioweapon ships were built for delivery, not combat. They burned in the darkness, their plagues dying with them. But the real psychological warfare came from Admiral Kyung-soo's broadcasts. Every human ship transmitted on all frequencies, flooding Council space with truth. Citizens of the galaxy, the messages declared, you have been deceived. The Council are not protectors. They are murderers. Here is the proof. The evidence spread like wildfire. On 100 worlds, species who had lived in fear suddenly saw that the Council could bleed, that they could lose. Back in the Council chamber, Yoonji stood calmly as Council security forces surrounded her. The 5 Council leaders had descended from their high seats, their usual arrogance replaced by something new. Fear. You don't understand what you've done, one leader said. We maintained order. We prevented chaos. You maintained slavery, Yoonji replied. You prevented growth. And now you'll learn what happens when you cage something that was meant to be free. The leader raised a weapon to kill her, but hesitated as alerts flooded the chamber. Council fleets burning? Worlds in rebellion. Military installations falling one after another. Impossible, the leader whispered. You're just primitives, animals. Yes, Unji smiled. We are animals. The most dangerous kind. The ones who learn to think. The Taloni struck next. Inspired by humanity's assault, they turned on their Council overseers. Within hours, 3 major Council supply worlds were in open revolt. The Melody survivors emerged from hiding, sharing critical intelligence with human forces. Species after species saw the Council's weakness and found their courage. Song Minho's weapons proved devastating. Human railguns punched through Council shields like paper. Missiles with unpredictable AI patterns confused Council point defenses. But the most effective weapon was psychological. Every human ship bore images of the species the Council had exterminated. Names of dead civilizations were painted on hulls. When Council forces saw these ghosts of their victims coming for them, something broke in their ordered minds. They're not adapting, Captain Kyung-soo observed. They can't understand why we're not following their combat doctrines. His tactical officer laughed grimly. Because their doctrine assumes everyone fights to survive. We're fighting for justice. Big difference. The battle for the Council's core world of Zentari showed how far humanity had come. The planet was defended by 1,000 ships and orbital fortresses. By all calculations, it should have held for years. It fell in 6 days. Human forces didn't just attack, they swarmed. Small craft sacrificed themselves to create openings for larger ships. Boarding teams turned captured vessels against their former allies. And through it all, the broadcasts continued, showing every citizen of Zentari exactly what their leaders had done. When Council civilians saw the evidence, many refused to support their own military. Riots broke out in major cities. The orderly society the Council had built on lies crumbled from within. Lim Junyoung coordinated with the rebellion movements. The Vakari are attacking Council positions in Sector 7. The Renti have seized control of 3 agricultural worlds. It's spreading faster than we projected, but humanity's greatest victory came from an unexpected source. Deep in Council archives, Hyunwoo's commandos found something extraordinary: the original Council charter. It showed that the 5 ruling species had once been just another alliance, before they betrayed and destroyed their own allies to seize power. When this information reached Council space, even their own subordinate species turned against them. The gray-skinned rulers found themselves alone, their empire collapsing in weeks instead of centuries. "Sir," Na-young reported to Admiral Dong-wook, "the Council is requesting terms." "Terms?" Dong-wook laughed bitterly. "They were going to exterminate us with a plague. Every man, woman, and child. There are no terms." But even in victory, humanity showed why they were different. They didn't massacre Council civilians. They didn't destroy worlds. They systematically dismantled the Council's military, arrested their leaders, and prepared for something the galaxy hadn't seen in millennia: justice. The final battle came at the Council's last stronghold. 500 Council ships made their final stand, fighting with the desperation of those who knew their time was over. Captain Kyung-soo watched as his fleet prepared for the last assault. "Remember," he told all ships, "we're not them. We're finishing this because it needs to be finished. Not for pleasure. For justice." The battle was brutal but brief. Council forces, never having faced a truly determined enemy, crumbled under humanity's coordinated assault. Their perfect formations broke. Their unbeatable technology failed. Their empire died. In the ruins of the Council chamber, Yunji stood again, this time with representatives of 20 freed species beside her. The 5 Council leaders knelt in chains, finally understanding what their victims had felt. "You were right about one thing," she told them. "Humans are emotional. We do feel rage, but unlike you, we know when to stop. You're going to live. You're going to stand trial. You're going to face every species you wronged. And then," one leader asked, "then the galaxy will decide your fate, together, as equals." The unleashing was over. The rage had served its purpose. Now came the harder task: building something better from the ashes of tyranny. The asteroid belt had always seemed empty to Council scanners. Chunks of rock and ice floating in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter. They never suspected that humanity had turned this cosmic debris field into the galaxy's largest hidden shipyard. Song Min-ho floated through the construction bay, watching as hundreds of workers assembled humanity's new fleet. The ships didn't look like Council vessels. They were smaller, faster, built with angles and armor that seemed almost primitive compared to the Council's smooth designs. "That's the point," Min-ho explained to his team. "The Council builds ships for intimidation and efficiency. We build them to survive and kill." Each human ship incorporated stolen Council technology mixed with human innovation. Where the Council used predictable energy weapons, humans added kinetic projectiles. Where aliens relied on standard shield configurations, humans created layered defenses that could adapt mid-battle. On Earth, Dr. Kang Soo-jin ran her most important session yet. Military commanders from every nation sat in her auditorium, learning something that went against their traditional training. "Rage has always been seen as weakness in combat," she began. "Loss of control. But human neurology is unique. We can enter a state I call cold fury, where our anger enhances our focus rather than destroying it." She showed brain scans on the screen. When humans feel righteous anger at injustice, at threats to our loved ones, our brains create new neural pathways. Reaction times increase by 30%, pattern recognition improves by 50%, and most importantly, our ability to work together paradoxically strengthens. A general raised his hand. "You're saying we fight better when we're angry?" "I'm saying humans are the only species we know of who can turn emotion into a tactical advantage without losing strategic thinking." The Council fears this because they can't understand it. They process anger as chaos. We process it as fuel. Lim Junyoung had once believed in the Council's message of peace. Now he used that same passion to build humanity's spy network. He met with traitors, smugglers, and refugees from Council space, always in secret, always careful. The Taloni remember what the Council did to their homeworld. One alien traitor whispered to him in a dark bar on Europa. They pretend to serve, but they remember. Many species remember. Would they help us? Junyoung asked. If you show strength, yes, but only if you show strength. The Council has ruled through fear for too long. Everyone is afraid to be the first to resist. Then humanity will be first, Junyoung promised. The preparations required sacrifice. Admiral Dong-wook ordered the recall of all human personnel from deep space missions. The excuses varied: family emergencies, medical issues, technical problems. Over 3 months, every human beyond Mars quietly returned home. The Council's asking questions, Na-young reported during a security briefing. They've noticed the pattern. Let them ask, Dong-wook replied. In 60 days, it won't matter what they suspect. The moon became humanity's largest military base. Buried beneath the lunar surface, factories worked continuously. Every adult human who could hold a weapon trained in combat. Children learned emergency protocols. Earth prepared for total war. Captain Park Jae-won stood before the assembled diplomatic corps. These 100 men and women would deliver humanity's final message when the time came. You've all volunteered for what might be a suicide mission, he said. When we reveal what we know, when we declare war on the Council, they'll try to kill you first. Jung Eun-ji, one of his best diplomats, smiled grimly. Then we'd better make our message count. In the asteroid shipyards, humanity's secret revealed itself. They hadn't just been building hundreds of ships. They'd been building thousands. Small, fast attack craft that could swarm larger vessels, heavy destroyers bristling with weapons, and at the heart of it all, humanity's first true warship, the UES Vengeance. Captain An Kyung-soo took command of the surprise attack fleet. He was known for his ability to remain calm in any situation, to channel his emotions into perfect tactical decisions. The Council expects us to have maybe 50 ships, he told his officers. They'll face 5,000, and that's just our first wave. Oh Hyunwoo trained his commando teams in zero-gravity combat. The Council's soldiers were larger and stronger than humans, but they fought with predictable patterns. They've conquered through superior technology, he explained during a brutal training session. But when was the last time they faced someone in close combat who actually wanted to kill them? Who trained their whole life for it? His teams learned to fight dirty, to use the Council's size against them, to strike with a savagery the orderly aliens couldn't comprehend or counter. The bioweapon concerned everyone most. Dr. Hai-jin led the effort to counter it, using the data from the Zakari device. It's designed for baseline humans, she announced after weeks of research. But we're not baseline anymore. Everyone needs these genetic modifications. It won't stop the weapon completely, but it'll give us time to fight back. The modification process was painful but necessary. Every human underwent the treatment, their DNA slightly altered to resist the Council's plague. With 30 days remaining, humanity's leaders made a crucial decision. They would tell their people the truth. The announcement came simultaneously across Earth and all colonies. Every screen showed the evidence. The Council's lies, their genocides, their plan for humanity. For 24 hours, the human race was silent. Then came the rage, but it wasn't chaos. It wasn't rioting. It was something the Council never expected. Controlled, focused fury. Humans didn't turn on each other. They turned their anger into productivity. Factories that had operated in 3 shifts now ran continuously. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Scientists shared research freely, breaking down barriers that had existed for centuries. My God, Soo-jin breathed as she watched the psychological data. We're not just angry. We're synchronized. 8 billion humans feeling the same emotion at the same time, directed at the same target. Minho's weapons production exceeded all projections. Humans worked with an efficiency born of shared purpose. Where the Council expected panic, they got determination. Where they expected division, they got unity. In the hidden shipyards, a child's drawing was painted on a battleship's hull, Earth surrounded by stars, with the words, "No one puts humanity in a cage." Junyoung's network reported something extraordinary. Word of humanity's preparation had leaked to other species. Slowly, Carefully enslaved races began their own preparations. They couldn't openly rebel, not yet. But they waited. They watched. They hoped. The Teloni are sabotaging Council supply lines, one report read, making it look like accidents. The Melody survivors are sharing intel about Council fleet movements. 3 more species have made contact. They're asking the same question. Can humanity actually win? With 10 days left, Admiral Dongwook surveyed humanity's assembled might. It wasn't just the ships or weapons that impressed him. It was the transformation of the human spirit. Fear had become determination. Betrayal had become purpose. The Council thinks we're animals, he said to his command staff. Clever animals, but animals nonetheless. They're about to learn that humans are something far more dangerous. What's that, sir? Someone asked. Dongwook smiled coldly. We're animals who learn to wage war with the precision of machines while keeping the fury of beasts. We're their worst nightmare. Chaos and order combined. As the final days counted down, humanity completed its transformation. Every man, woman, and child knew their role. Every ship knew its target. Every soldier knew their mission. The Council still visited, still collected their minerals, still believed their deception held. They didn't notice that the humans no longer asked about leaving the solar system. They didn't wonder why Earth seemed so cooperative. They didn't realize that humanity had stopped being prey. The hunters were about to become the hunted. Choi Tae-hyun worked in complete silence. For 3 days he had barely left his secure lab, surviving on coffee and determination. The alien device sat connected to his custom-built decryption system, its surface pulsing with a faint blue light. Any progress? Na-young asked as she entered with another cup of coffee. Tae-hyun didn't look up from his screens. It's like nothing I've ever seen. Layers upon layers of encryption, but I'm close. Maybe another hour. On Mars, Colony Administrator Bae Ji-woo stood at the edge of a massive excavation site. The red dust swirled around her as construction machines dug deeper into the planet's surface. They were supposed to be building new habitat modules, but what they found instead changed everything. Administrator, you need to see this, her lead engineer called out. Ji-woo descended into the pit. At the bottom, partially uncovered, lay structures that were definitely not natural rock formations. They were ruins. Ancient ruins, how old? She asked. Preliminary scans suggest at least 50,000 years. But Administrator, look at these markings. Ji-woo knelt beside the exposed wall. Symbols covered its surface, and while she couldn't read them, their arrangement seemed deliberate. Planned. Like a warning. Document everything, she ordered. But keep this quiet. I need to contact Earth. Back on Earth, Captain Han Sung-ho received encrypted orders on his stealth ship, the Shadow Phoenix. His vessel was one of humanity's best-kept secrets, a ship designed to be invisible to Council sensors. New orders from Admiral Dong-wook, his communications officer, reported. We're to shadow the next Council ship that visits Earth. Full surveillance protocol. Sung-ho nodded. Prep the crew. Something tells me we're about to learn things the Council doesn't want us to know. In Tae-hyun's lab, the screen suddenly flooded with data. The encryption had finally broken. I've got it, he shouted, then immediately wished he hadn't as he began reading. Na-young, Jae-won, Hee-jin, and Dong-wook gathered around the screens. What they saw made their blood run cold. These are extermination records, Tae-hyun said quietly. The Council. They've been doing this for thousands of years. The files contained detailed documentation of civilizations the Council had destroyed. Each entry followed the same pattern. First contact, a period of protection and trade, careful study of the species' weaknesses, and then systematic annihilation. The Zakari, Hyejin pointed to one entry. That was the species of the alien who gave me this device. Look at the date. They were destroyed just 50 Earth years ago. Their crime? Jae-won read from the file. Developing faster than light travel without Council approval. Page after page revealed the truth. The Council wasn't a protective force. They were galactic predators eliminating any species that might one day challenge their dominance. Here, Na-young found a section marked with Earth's coordinates. Our file, they read in horrified silence. Species human, planet Earth threat assessment, extreme. Notable characteristics, unprecedented advancement rate, high adaptability, extreme psychological resilience. Unique trait, ability to convert emotional states into tactical advantages. Historical analysis shows escalating violence when threatened. Recommendation, Maintain containment protocols. Schedule for termination once mineral extraction is complete. Timeline 6 months. Method: bioweapon XK7 tailored to human physiology. Warning: do not allow this species to unite globally or develop space combat capabilities. They're planning to kill us all with a bioweapon, Dongwook said, his voice deadly calm. Wait, there's more. Taehyun scrolled further. Video files. They watched in sick fascination as council ships descended on unsuspecting worlds. Weapons they had never imagined turned cities to ash in seconds. Entire populations disappeared in clouds of engineered diseases. The council's gray-skinned soldiers moved through the aftermath, collecting resources and technology from the dead civilizations. One video showed a council meeting. The aliens discussed humanity like farmers planning to cull livestock. The humans show concerning signs, one council member said. Their emotional responses are unlike anything we've cataloged. When the Zakari faced extinction, they surrendered. When the Melody realized their fate, they tried to flee. But humans, our model suggests they would react differently. How differently? Another asked. They would focus their rage, channel it, turn it into something cold and calculating. It's why we must strike before they realize the truth. Jiwoo's urgent message arrived as they finished watching. The images from Mars showed the ancient ruins clearly. Taehyun enhanced the symbols on the walls, running them through translation algorithms. These aren't just any ruins, he said slowly. They're from a species called the Martians in council records. They lived in our solar system. And these symbols. It's a warning. About the council. They were trying to warn anyone who came after, Heejin realized. The council destroyed an entire civilization right in our backyard. Seung-ho's report came next. His ship had followed a council vessel to a gathering point just beyond Neptune's orbit. What he found there made everyone's worst fears real. It's a staging area, his message read. Hundreds of ships. Bioweapon deployment vessels, according to our scans. They're already preparing for the attack. The room fell silent as the full weight of their discovery sank in. Humanity had 6 months at most. 6 months before the council tried to wipe them from existence. We can't let anyone panic, Jaewon said finally. If word gets out wrong, we'll have chaos. We need to prepare, Dongwook said. Every human everywhere. But quietly, Na-young was studying another file. Look at this. Other species have tried to resist before. They all failed because they waited too long or fought alone. But there's a pattern here. The council always underestimates species' ability to cooperate under extreme threat. And they've definitely underestimated us, Hyojin added. They think our rage makes us unpredictable and dangerous. They're right, but they don't understand that we can control it. Focus it. Over the next days, Earth's leaders met in absolute secrecy. The evidence was shared with trusted officials worldwide. The response was unanimous. Humanity would not go quietly into extinction. Admiral Dongwook began the largest covert military operation in human history. Ships were recalled. New ones ordered built in hidden facilities. Earth's fractured nations united with a speed that would have seemed impossible before. Lim Jun-young, who had once advocated for closer ties with the council, now became one of the resistance's most passionate voices. I was blind, he told the gathered leaders, but now I see. They used our hope against us, our desire for peace, never again. The council's next visit to Earth went perfectly normally. They collected their minerals, dispensed their trivial technology, and left believing humanity remained ignorant. They didn't notice the anger burning behind every human's polite smile. In labs across Earth and Mars, scientists worked around the clock. They studied council technology with new eyes, looking for weaknesses. Engineers designed weapons based on human creativity, rather than council blueprints. Psychologists like Dr. Kang Soo-jin studied how to turn human rage into a tactical advantage. They fear our emotions, Soo-jin explained to military leaders. They think it makes us weak. But human history shows the opposite. When we're truly threatened, when our loved ones are in danger, we become something more. We become focused, unstoppable. Song Min-ho led the team reverse engineering council technology. What they found gave them hope. Their ships are advanced, but they have a critical flaw, he reported. They're designed to fight species who think like them. Logical, predictable. They've never faced an enemy who can be simultaneously enraged and calculating. As Earth prepared in secret, the countdown continued. 6 months had become 5, then 4. But humanity was no longer the naive species the Council thought they were deceiving. They were becoming something else, something the Council had feared enough to mark for death. They were becoming dangerous. Captain Park Jae-won stood before the massive window of Earth's diplomatic center in Neo-Seoul. The city stretched out below him, its lights twinkling in the evening darkness. 10 years had passed since humanity first met the Galactic Council. 10 years of what they called peace. "Captain, the Council's representative will arrive soon," Dr. Kim Hye-jin said as she entered the room. She was Earth's best expert on alien cultures, but even she found the Council hard to understand. Jae-won turned from the window. "Thank you, Hye-jin. Same routine as always?" "Yes. They'll take our minerals, give us some basic technology, and remind us to stay in our solar system for our own safety." Hye-jin's voice carried a hint of frustration. The door opened again. Admiral Lee Dong-wook walked in, his uniform perfectly pressed. Behind him came Yoon Na-young, one of Earth's top intelligence officers. Na-young looked worried, which was unusual for her. "Admiral Na-young," Jae-won greeted them. "Is something wrong?" Na-young glanced at the others before speaking. "I've been analyzing the Council's data from the past 10 years. There are inconsistencies." "What kind of inconsistencies?" Dong-wook asked, his eyes narrowing. "Population numbers that don't match, star systems that appear and disappear from their maps, technology levels that seem to change overnight." Na-young pulled up a holographic display. "Look at this. The Kepler 442 system had an emerging civilization 5 years ago according to this report, but in yesterday's update it shows as uninhabited. Has always been uninhabited." Hye-jin frowned. "Could be a mistake? One mistake maybe. But I found 17 similar cases." Na-young's fingers moved through the data. 17 civilizations that just vanished from their records. Before anyone could respond, the room's alert system chimed. The Council's representative had arrived. The alien who entered looked like all Council members. Tall, with gray skin and large black eyes. They never gave their real names, only titles. This one was called Advisor. "Greetings, humans," the advisor said in perfect English. The Council had learned all Earth languages remarkably fast. "I trust you have prepared this month's shipment of uranium and rare earth minerals?" "Of course," Jae-won replied, keeping his voice neutral. "The cargo ships are ready at the orbital station." "Excellent. In return, we have brought you improved water purification systems." The advisor placed a small device on the table. "This will help your growing population." "How generous," Dong-wook said dryly. "Tell me, advisor. We've been wondering about exploring beyond our solar system. When might that be possible?" The advisor's expression didn't change, but something in its eyes shifted. "As we have explained, the galaxy is dangerous. Many threats exist beyond your borders. The Council protects young species like yours by keeping you safe in your home systems until you are ready." "And when will we be ready?" Hye-jin asked. "That is not for us to determine. The Council will evaluate your progress." The advisor paused. "Speaking of progress, we've noticed increased activity on your Mars colony. What is the purpose of the new constructions?" "Just expanding our living spaces," Jae-won lied smoothly. "Our population grows quickly." The advisor stared at him for a long moment. "I see. Remember, humans, the Council has your best interests at heart. Other species have ignored our guidance. They are no longer with us." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Na-young's hand moved slightly toward her concealed weapon, but Dong-wook's subtle gesture stopped her. "We understand," Jae-won said. "We're grateful for the Council's protection." The meeting continued for another hour, following the same pattern as always. The Council took what they wanted and gave back just enough to keep humanity dependent. When the advisor finally left, the 4 humans remained silent until they were sure it was gone. "They're hiding something," Na-young said immediately. "Obviously," Dong-wook agreed. "The question is what?" 3 days later, everything changed. Hye-jin was working late in her lab when her assistant rushed in. "Doctor, there's an alien in the loading bay." "It's not Council." "It's dying." Hye-jin ran to the loading bay. The alien lying on the floor looked nothing like the Council members. It was smaller, with blue-tinted skin and multiple arms. Dark fluid leaked from wounds across its body. "Please," it whispered in broken English. "You humans must know truth." Hye-jin knelt beside it. "What truth?" "Who are you?" Was traitor, Zakari people. We trusted Council. Like you." The alien coughed, more fluid spilling out. "They destroy. They consume. They lie. With one of its arms, the alien pulled out a small device. Take everything inside, proof they come for you soon. Who's coming? The Council? Not protect. Never protect, only prepare. The alien's eyes focused on her with effort. You have something they fear, why they keep you. Locked away, but time running out. 6 months, maybe less. What do they fear? What are you talking about? The alien's breathing became ragged. Human rage. They know what you become when pushed. Saw it in your history, your wars. But they think they can control. They wrong. You must. The alien's eyes went dark. Its body became still. Hyejin grabbed the device and quickly hid it in her coat. She called security, her mind racing. When they arrived, she gave them a simple story. An unknown alien had crashed, already dying when found. Nothing more. That night, she met with Jae-won, Dong-wook, and Na-young in a secure room, one shielded from all surveillance. The device is encrypted, she explained, showing them the alien object. But it's definitely data storage. Massive amounts of it. Can we crack it? Jae-won asked. We need our best cryptographer, someone we trust absolutely. Hyejin looked at each of them. If what that alien said is true, then the Council isn't protecting us, Dong-wook finished. They're preparing to destroy us. Na-young leaned forward. The vanishing civilizations. What if they didn't just disappear from the records? What if they actually were eliminated, Jae-won said quietly, and were next. The room fell silent as the weight of this possibility settled over them. Outside, the lights of Neo-Seoul continued to twinkle, unaware that humanity's peaceful existence might be nothing more than an illusion. We need to decode this device, Dong-wook said finally, quietly, without alerting the Council. I know someone, Na-young said. Choi Tae-hyun, best cryptographer on the planet. And he has no love for the Council. They rejected his request to study their technology 3 times. Contact him, Jae-won ordered. But be careful. If the Council suspects we know something, they won't, Hyejin said firmly. We've played their game for 10 years. We can play it a little longer. As the meeting ended and they prepared to leave, each of them felt the shift. The comfortable lie of Council protection was cracking. Whatever truth lay hidden in that small device, it would change everything. The dying alien's words echoed in Hyejin's mind. Human rage. They know what you become when pushed. She wondered if the Council truly understood what they had done by caging humanity. Soon they would find out.